There's something inside you that you don't want to admit, something you bury deep, something you cover with morality, excuses, and fake certainties, but it's still there, like a shadow whispering when the world goes dark. Nietzsche knew it. He saw it, studied it, shouted it to the world without holding back. And what he discovered was so uncomfortable, so ugly, that most people would rather mock him than face it. Let me ask you something. What would you do if you found out that everything you believe about life, morality, good and evil, was nothing more than a convenient lie? What if I told you the truth you're looking for is not beautiful, not inspiring, but disturbing, unacceptable? And here's the scariest question of all. What if Nietzsche was right? Think about it. How many times in history has someone been ridiculed or silenced just because their truth was too uncomfortable to hear? Nietzsche understood this better than anyone. People don't really want the truth. They want certainties. Certainties that won't make them miserable. But reality isn't built to make you comfortable. And if you've got the courage to keep listening, I'm going to show you what Nietzsche actually said. Not the sugar-coated quotes, not the inspirational Instagram posts taken out of context, but the real thing, the parts so raw, so dark, that most people can't stand them. And when we're done, you'll have to decide for yourself, was Nietzsche a madman or a prophet? Let's start with the idea that shook the world: God is dead. When Nietzsche wrote this, he wasn't making a cheap shot at religion. He was talking about you. He was talking about what happens when the world runs out of old certainties. When good and evil are no longer defined by some higher power. When there's no divine purpose pulling the strings. When everything depends on you. Because if God is dead, who decides what's right? Who decides what's wrong? How do you live without a cosmic set of rules? This is where Nietzsche's most unsettling thought hits. There's no objective morality, no universal rules. Everything you think is good or bad is a human invention. And here's the part that stings. It wasn't designed to benefit the bold, the strong, or the creative. It was built to keep you weak. Ever felt like the world rewards mediocrity? Like the moment you try to stand out, you get labeled arrogant? Like people treat those who want to change things as a threat? That's no accident. Nietzsche saw it clearly. The morality most people follow is slave morality. What does that mean? It means our values were shaped by the powerless, the resentful, those who could never be great, so they made greatness look evil. And here's the part that's hard to swallow. If you live by the rules of this morality, you're doomed to mediocrity. Look at the world. People hate those who live without permission. They hate the ones who say, "I don't care what you think." Why? Because every time someone shows it's possible to live without chains, it exposes everyone who chooses to keep theirs on. You've been trained to see submission as goodness, sacrifice as noble, humility as beautiful. Nietzsche saw it differently. He believed those ideas exist to keep the strong from realizing their power. Look around. Most people follow rules they never question. They bow to ideals they can't explain. They fear what others might say, because guilt has been turned into a weapon. And now comes another blow. Compassion, as we know it, is a trap. I know we're taught compassion is one of the greatest virtues, but Nietzsche argued that compassion often keeps people weak. If you help someone without pushing them to grow stronger, you're just making sure they stay where they are. He wasn't saying crush the weak. He was saying the world moves forward because of the strong, the ones who don't settle, the ones who stop making excuses. And if slave morality keeps ruling us, we're headed toward more mediocrity, not less. So if Nietzsche were alive today, what would he say about a society obsessed with political correctness, with victimhood, with the idea that everyone deserves respect just for existing? What would he think of a world where excellence is arrogance and mediocrity is celebrated? The answer's obvious. He'd say we're doing exactly what he warned against. Giving up greatness to avoid judgment, staying trapped in a morality designed to keep us small. Now here's the real question. What will you do with this information? Because now you know. You can't unhear it. You can either keep following the rules of slave morality or do what Nietzsche suggested: break them. And yes, If you do, you'll be hated. They'll call you arrogant, selfish, dangerous. But so what? Would you rather live chained so people accept you, or live free even if they fear you? This is Nietzsche's truth. The only question is, are you ready to accept it? But here's where most people fall apart. The moment they hear this, their mind fights back. That's extreme. That can't be right. There's got to be another way. Why? Because accepting this truth means admitting your life has been ruled by invisible chains, chains you didn't even realize you were wearing. And worst of all, you've been complicit in your own enslavement. The most terrifying thing about the truth, once you see it, you can't unsee it. It's like a crack in the wall of your reality. You can ignore it for a while, pretend it's not there, but deep down, you know the wall is already breaking. Nietzsche understood that most people don't want the truth. They want comfort. They want to believe there's a moral order, that being good is enough. But is it? Think about the most admired people in history. Were they celebrated because they followed the rules? Because they obeyed? No, they broke the rules. They defied expectations. They didn't ask for permission. And that brings us to an even darker question. What happens to the people who aren't ready for the truth? Nietzsche knew the truth wasn't for everyone. He knew most people can't handle the idea that morality is just a human invention, that there's no divine purpose waiting at the end, that the meaning of life isn't written anywhere. And that's why his most brutal thought wasn't just God is dead, it's that most people need a God, even if that God is a lie. Look around. How many people depend on an external authority? And I'm not just talking about religion, governments, ideologies, political movements, social leaders, experts, influencers. There's always someone people want to follow, someone who tells them what's right, what's moral, what's acceptable. Why? Because the void of truth is unbearable. Accepting that you're alone, that there's no higher order protecting you, that everything depends on you, is terrifying. So instead of facing it, people invent rules. They build value systems to make them feel safe. They choose comfortable enslavement over freedom without direction. This is where Nietzsche drops his most dangerous idea. If there's no universal morality, no truth imposed from above, then the only option is to create your own. But here's what that means. Absolute responsibility. If there are no divine rules, no moral code handed down from the sky, no supreme authority telling you what to do, then every decision falls on you. You can't blame anyone. You can't say, I was just following orders. You can't hide behind, this is what's right according to society. If you create your own morality, then every choice and every mistake is yours. And that terrifies people. Because if you fail, there's no one to blame. If you make the wrong call, you can't shift responsibility to the system or the rules. You own it. That's why most people run away. They choose the comfort of living under rules someone else made. It's easier to follow than to decide. It's easier to obey than to create. But Nietzsche said there is another path. A path for the few willing to carry that weight. The ones who can handle the truth without numbing themselves. The ones who don't need an external morality to function. This was his idea of the Übermensch. And here's where so many people get it wrong. The Übermensch is not a dictator, not a tyrant, not some ruthless monster without morals. The Übermensch is simply someone who has outgrown the need for slave morality, someone who builds their own values, someone who refuses to live by what others expect. But there's a price. If you take this path, you will walk alone. Most people won't understand you. They'll call you arrogant, selfish, dangerous. They'll accuse you of not caring about others. Not because it's true, but because you threaten the belief system that makes them feel safe. And here's the choice you have to make. Do you keep living according to values you didn't choose, rules you didn't write, seeking approval from people who'd never lived like you? Or do you take the risk? Look in the mirror and ask, am I willing to create my own path, even if no one understands me? Because that's the real test. True freedom isn't about doing whatever you want. It's about having the courage to stop asking for permission. Nietzsche saw it with absolute clarity. The world isn't ruled by truth. It's ruled by fear, fear of freedom, fear of taking responsibility for our own lives, fear of becoming who we truly are. And here's the final question for you. Are you strong enough to accept this truth? Or, like most, will you stay in the comfort of a lie? But wait, there's a question people always ask at this point. If there are no rules from above, what's to stop someone from doing whatever they want? What about chaos? What about destruction? What about people using this idea to justify the worst in human nature? This is where almost everyone misunderstands Nietzsche. When he spoke of the Übermensch, when he said the strong should free themselves from slave morality, he wasn't calling for anarchy. He wasn't saying, power justifies anything. He was saying something deeper. True strength isn't about dominating others. It's about mastering yourself. Think about the most dangerous people in history, not petty criminals or greedy rulers, but the ones who truly changed the course of humanity, for better or worse. They had one thing in common. They didn't ask for permission. But here's the difference. The tyrant wants to control others. The Übermensch wants to control themselves. And that's the point almost nobody gets. It's not about crushing the world. It's about transcending yourself. It's about refusing to live under society's rules, but also refusing to be ruled by your own lowest instincts. Here's the trap Nietzsche warned about. Some people hear no rules and think that means giving in to every desire, every impulse. They think the path of strength is the path of indulgence, of abuse, of selfish chaos. Nietzsche called that the lowest form of existence. True power isn't doing whatever you want. It's doing what's right, according to the code you've built for yourself. And that's where things get dark. Because to create that code, you first have to destroy everything you think is true. You have to rip out the beliefs you inherited, erase the fears you were taught, shatter the limits society put on you. You have to destroy yourself to rebuild yourself. The question is, do you have the courage to do it? Because here's the truth nobody likes to admit. Real freedom is unbearable for most people. Look around. Most lives are a loop. Same jobs, same schedules, same empty conversations, same prepackaged desires. And yet people think they're free because they can pick what show to watch, what food to order, what shirt to buy. That's not freedom. That's a decorated cage. True freedom is an abyss. It's standing at the edge of the world with no guide, no map, no instructions, and knowing every step you take is on you. It's terrifying. That's why Nietzsche said so few could ever become the Übermensch. Because when most people stare into the void of real freedom, they panic. They run back to the safety of rules. They would rather obey than decide. They would rather be purposeful slaves than directionless free men. Because being free doesn't just mean choosing, it means carrying the weight of those choices without excuses. If you fail, it's your fault. If you make the wrong move, there's no one to blame, and most people can't live with that. That's why history is filled with societies that try to crush those who think differently, those who question the norm, those who dare to reach beyond what's acceptable. Because society doesn't reward the ones who challenge the system, it rewards obedience. It might admire rebels in silence, but it will never protect them. So, what do you want to be? Another cog in the machine? Or someone who doesn't need permission to exist? If you choose this path, let me warn you, you will be hated because the moment you think for yourself, the moment you stop blindly following, you become dangerous to everyone still living inside the cage. Not because you threaten them physically, but because your very existence proves they could be free. And they don't want to be reminded of their own cowardice. People hate the mirror that shows them what they could be. So here's your dilemma. You can keep playing society's game. Follow the rules you were taught. Seek approval, fit in, be what's expected. Or you can do the unthinkable, destroy what chains you and build yourself from scratch. A self that doesn't depend on other people's validation. A self that doesn't need permission to exist. But remember, true freedom isn't for everyone. It's only for those who can carry the full weight of their own decisions, without blaming anyone else, without hiding from the consequences, without fear of being wrong. So ask yourself, do you have the courage to carry that burden? Or better yet, do you have the courage to try? If you've made it this far, it's because something in you resonated with this. Something in you recognized there's truth here. So I want you to prove it. Leave a comment with this phrase: "He who does not dare to break his chains deserves to wear them." I want to see how many people who reach this point are actually ready to face the truth. And if you want to keep going, if you want to dig deeper into the ideas nobody dares to say out loud, then subscribe. This isn't a channel for everyone. It's a channel for those unafraid of the truth. Are you one of them? See you in the next video.